You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily fantasy basketball podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and I am the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com and at Yahoo Sports Australia. And you can find me on Twitter as always at redrock_bball and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. We are starting some mini shows now, probably until the end of the season, where I'm answering your questions in these mini shows through a mailbag where you can submit your questions via Twitter or via Instagram. So Michael Bolton,
let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. We're not going to cover huge amounts of questions because this indeed still is a mini show. Enough of me talking shit. Let's talk about the questions though. First question I just thought was an interesting one. Who's your first pick in a 1986-87 fantasy draft? Magic Johnson or Larry Bird? And the reason I answer this question is that there is a site that you can check out. Of course, it's one of our sites, and that is history.basketballmonster.com. And you can see the rankings for players back in all these past years. In 86-87, Larry Bird was the number one fantasy player in per game value and in total value. So he would be my number one pick. Bird averaged 41 minutes a night, 28 points, 1.2 threes, which is a huge value back in those days. 9 boards, 7.5 assists, 1.8 steals, and a block, shooting 53 and 91%. Like absolute monster numbers. A true positive contributor in every single fantasy category. So he would have been number one. On a per game basis, Jordan was next, then Charles Barkley, then Magic Johnson, Kevin McHale, Sleepy Floyd, Hakeem Olajuwon, Larry Nance Sr., Clyde Drexler, Fat Lever, Dale Ellis, and Derek Harper. They were your top 12 back in 86-87, and you can check that all out. history.basketballmonster.com. Let's get to some other questions now. Bobby Shockery says, is Clint Capela a drop given the uncertainty and probable minutes restrictions if he returns? Well, he's going to be reevaluated now in another 2 weeks. Again, this all depends on individual situation. Are you in the playoffs? Do you have a bye? Are you playing a competitive match for 2 weeks? I think that if you are in a situation where you're in the playoffs now, you have to drop him, right? Then no IR. And of course, every single league has to have IR and probably multiple IR spots. You have to have IR spots. I can't stress that enough. Now, if your playoffs start in 2 weeks and you're comfortably in first place, or your playoffs start next week and you've got a bye, let's just wait and see if you can get any more information here about Capela. Because you're not going to find a potential top 30 guy sitting on the waiver wire that you can just add in the hopes that he's better than Capela. Let's have a look at some other questions here. How do I see Dwayne Dedmon's is from McBean. How do I see Dwayne Dedmon's stats while Capela is out versus when Capela is playing? When Capela's playing, he's going to have no value. He's going to play 22 minutes a night. He might play 25 or 26 a night when Clint is in. So he's a 12-team league guy while Capela is out, if Dedmon actually returns himself. And then when Capela plays, he's not a 12 or probably not even a 14-team league guy. Steve says, can Jordan Poole keep producing high assists when Steph Curry and Draymond Green return? I'll say no to that. He just won't have the ball in his hands as much. He's putting up good numbers now and he's showing development as a playmaker, but no, those assists won't be able to last as the season goes on. Eddie Lee says, what do I do with Mo Wagner? Should I grab Harry Giles over Mo Wagner? Yes, that is a no-brainer decision pretty comfortably. How does Yahoo formulate their ranking? I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure they use a standard score method, the same that we do at Basketball Monster, but I'm almost convinced that theirs is based on totals, and I'm not sure that they do the percentages the correct way, but I'm not sure exactly how they do their rankings. Will the Chicago Bulls, from Horrible Draft Comparison Guide, it's a good name, will the Chicago Bulls get more wins while Levine is out? That's going to be a real test of Levine's value, but it is going to be skewed because Porter is back, Markkanen is back, we're getting ramped up minutes from Wendell Carter, so I don't think that's a fair comparison. So, look, they were like 1-9 in their last 10 before beating the Mavericks with Levine out. So I'd say, yes, they do get more wins. Is that because Levine is out? Probably not. There are a lot of other factors that go into that. Is Markkanen worth a look from Wise Guy? Yes, he is worth a look. He's coming back. He's going to start. Now, I don't understand why they can put him straight into the starting lineup. They can put Wendell Carter straight into the starting lineup despite them being out long term, but they still put Otto Porter off the bench. Do they not think Porter should be starting? Or is it just that the old thumbhead is completely in love with Ryan Archie-Jacqueline? I reckon the second option might be correct. Is Cam Johnson the biggest benefactor of an Ayton injury? Well, there's been a few questions here about Ayton's injury. It looks like he's going to miss some time with this ankle sprain. He's definitely going to be out the next game. He's on crutches. The Suns play 2 games next week, so even if it is Aaron Baines that you add, if it's Cam Johnson you add, they're not going to be guys who provide good value next week. If it's Dario Saric you add, I think it's going to be a mix of those players. Now, Baines was dominating at the beginning of this season, we knew that, but his body has really given way since then. He did not play a single minute last game, despite Ayton playing 39 minutes, and they wouldn't even give Ayton a rest to get Baines in. They said it was because the pace was too fast, which is a load of shit. Monty Williams has made some questionable coaching decisions all season. I think Baines will play. He'll play his 24 minutes. I think Johnson will play extra minutes. I think you'll get Diallo chime in there as well. I think you'll get Saric getting extra minutes, and Saric has his best results when he plays at center. We've seen that all season. But with 2 games next week for the Suns and Ayton maybe not even missing any time after that, then nobody there is going to be a must roster. Johnson was great last game, and people look at that and go, well, man, look at these numbers that Cam Johnson put up. He's going to be a must add. But everything that he did there was a career high. If you're going to take a flyer on someone, it does depend a little bit on what you need. Do you need points and threes? Johnson's your guy. Do you need some boards and blocks? Baines is going to be your guy. But overall, they're going to be middling type ads. Mitch Badua says, who has the highest dynasty upside in the 2020 draft class? I have no idea, Mitch, because I wait until the season is done and then I go through and look at all their numbers and go from there. So I haven't projected any of that out yet. Too busy concentrating on the NBA. Rob Fox says, best Australian 80s band, Midnight Oil, Men at Work, In Excess, or Other. I don't really like any of those bands, especially Other. So I'm more of a 90s music person than an 80s music person. Sean Koshko, hold on to Justice Winslow. No, why have you been holding on to him this long? Like, he's never been a top 100 player in his career. He's dealt with a back injury for 4 months. We don't know if he's coming back. No, there's no point in holding on to him. Maybe he comes back and he looks good and then you add him, but holding on to him is not something that I would be massively in favor of. Let's just swing it across now and have a look on the old gram to see what questions have come through here. Dwayne Dedman over Naz Reid or Jimmy Johnson? Well, again, Dedman hasn't even been playing himself. I think that I'd rather Reid at this point over Dedman, who's dealing with his own injury. But again, these are just back-end machinations of a roster where you're just looking to stream in and get maximum games played. Are Luka, Doncic, and Trae Young top 5 picks in fantasy next season? Well, let's have a think about it. Karl Anthony Towns. Anthony Davis. If Towns doesn't go top 5, people are dreaming. Harden, right? There's 3 guys there already. Yanni will probably go in that area, even though his per-game ranking is low because of the punt free throw situation. I could see Doncic going in that top 5. Look, that's 5 guys already, and then you got Trae on the outside. Where does Steph fit in? Where are people going to draft Kevin Durant? That's another question. Probably it shouldn't be in the top 5. I would say that they're both comfortable top 10 guys, but both being top 5, probably not. I think you'd find Doncic go top 5, or Trae could go top 5 in some situations. I don't think that they will be consensus top 5 picks for next season. What's the crucifix Christian Wood's outlook for next season? That just depends so much on what he does, because he's a free agent. He's an unrestricted free agent. We don't know if Detroit's going to bring him back. We don't know if he wants to go back to Detroit. We don't know if Detroit's going to bring other players in. So it could be as a top 40 player. It could be as a guy that's not even a top 150 guy. We've seen flashes from Wood at the end of seasons before, and it amounts to nothing. He did it for the Pelicans a couple of years ago, and then nothing happened, and people just didn't claim him. Now things have changed a little bit on the Christian Wood respect front, and I hate using the word respect, but people actually are seeing what he can do. So I don't think he's going to just be a complete afterthought in this offseason, but will he find a role where he is a 30-plus minute starting center? And even next year, if he goes back to Detroit, Blake Griffin's going to be there, and that's going to take a lot of usage away, and it is going to have an impact on Wood. So I think what we're seeing from Wood now could very easily be career-high type numbers and career-high rankings, and I think we should probably expect a downturn on that next season. All right. Let's have a look. Is Ben Simmons a drop? It depends. Like, again, where are you in your playoffs? We don't know when Simmons is coming back. So I think in most cases, you'd have to say he probably is. But that's not going to be for everybody. But I think as a general blanket rule, you could say yes. What about Luke Kennard? Do I leave him on the wire? Well, he's still not coming back for another week with these knee injuries that have kept him out for months already. I don't see that him is this. I've got to have Luke Kennard. I don't see that as the reality. I think that we just leave him on the wire. We see what happens when he comes back, because if you've been out this long with sore knees, you're not coming back in and playing 32 minutes a night straight away. I'm pretty sure about that. So I'd be happy to leave Kennard on the wire. Let's have a look. What is the best playoff format in your opinion? 2-week playoffs? Finishing before the end of March is the best way to do that, in my opinion. I don't know what other questions you're asking there, but that's how I see the playoffs as being the best. Okay, well, next question. What to do with Aiden? Let's just hold and figure out what's going on there. Kobe White or Karis LeVert? Has to be Karis LeVert. I think I can't see any argument for Kobe White over Karis LeVert. And I think we might get close to wrapping this up now. Okay, let's go through just the last question here. What are your thoughts on Naz Reid as a keeper? Could he play next to Cat? Sure. Will he? No. I really don't see him or Cat playing as that big front court. Again, there's too many defensive issues with both of those guys to have them out there together. Reid's had a lot of usage and shooting issues so far. High usage, low efficiency. No, I don't see that being a case that happens for more than, say, like 1 minute every 5 games. No, I don't see that being the case. Reid has shown himself to be a viable backup center. I think he could be a guy that develops into a starter in 3 or 4 years, probably on another team, but I don't see them forming a 30-minute Twin Towers type front court. All right, guys, that will do it for my mini show. Let me know, did you like the mailbag format as a mini show during the week? Now, drop that in the comments below or tweet it at me, and subscribe. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and on YouTube, guys. We are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.